Hi and welcome to another Expert Insights video. I have with me Liz Farr of Farr Communications. Hi Liz.
Hi Matt, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. And thanks for joining us from, you're in Albuquerque, right?
Actually, just a little bit south of,
Okay.
of Albuquerque.
Yeah,
But
cool.
yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, well, could you tell us a little bit more about Farr Communications and also your background as a CPA?
Well, I've been a CPA since 2004 and realized, oh, probably a couple of years ago, that I didn't want to spend the rest of my life putting numbers in boxes. And then I realized that one of my great strong suits was writing.
Hmm.
So I decided to capitalize on that, took a few copywriting courses, and then I discovered that there is a huge market for CPAs who can write. That there are an awful lot of people who need somebody who understands tax and accounting who can also write and communicate that to normal kinds of people. So, been doing that for about 8 months now and having a great deal of fun. It really is a lot more satisfying than looking up the IRS code and pawing through clients' records and trying to figure out what number goes on what line of a tax return.
Yeah, that's great. Um, so that's not a usual combination, a CPA who's also a writer. Do you think there's something? I mean, there's kind of I guess there would be an obvious stereotype that accountants are numbers people, not words people, or do you think that that is just a stereotype that's false, and writing is something that you can learn?
Um, I think it's, the people who do well in accounting really do thrive on numbers,
Hmm.
but I do believe that you can learn to write. And I know quite a few accountants who are very good writers. And I think that it's something that you certainly can learn. Um, a good way to start learning to write is just to read a lot.
Yeah.
Stephen King says, I think, if you don't have the time to read a lot, then you don't have time to write a lot.
Mm.
So the best way to start is just by reading a lot and not reading all those dusty IRS treatises, but to read something completely different, some fiction or novels or poetry or something completely different.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. He's a copywriter that I really rate. Is a guy called Drayton Bird. So he's a guy's originally from the UK, but he used to work for Ogilvy in New York. Anyway, very good copywriter and very advertising focused. Yet his recommendation for being an advertising writer is, as he describes it, have a well furnished mind. So he said, don't just go and read advertising. That's important, but go and read, like you say, poetry. Go to the theatre. Basically fill your mind full of literature, and that's going to help you as much as reading the kind of specific stuff that's related to the subject matter that you want to write about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and another great technique for learning to write is something that came from a book by Julia Cameron called The Artist's Way.
Hmm.
And in that, she has a process called daily pages. We spend about 20 minutes just writing nonstop, just filling about 3 pages with writing. And there's no rhyme or reason to it. You just write
Hmm.
and write and write. And if you can't think of anything to write, then you write that.
Mm.
And it's really quite an amazing experience. I've been doing that for about 3.5 years now. And it's been just tremendously helpful. It just frees your mind. And serves as a mind dump so that I can get rid of all the awful thoughts that I want to get rid of. I can put them on this piece of paper and then shut them away, and they're gone.
Hmm. I find not just with accountants and CPAs is that one of the biggest barriers to writing is procrastination. So kind of following up from what you're saying, I think sometimes with writing it's best just to get your thoughts down on paper. The actual skill of writing to me comes back in the editing. It's knowing kind of what to trim, what to add in. That initial part of getting the words onto the paper, though, normally holds people up. So I think it's good to not be too reserved at that point. Just get something down, and then it's kind of like a sculpture to me. There's like a block of stone at the start, and you just have to start chipping some stuff away. It's never going to look good at the start, but eventually, you know, Venus de Milo comes at the end, or maybe not.
Right.
So just on that, what other kind of learning resources do you know of that could help specifically accountants, I guess, write? Or I mean, they don't have to be specific accounting resources, but just places or books, courses that people could improve their writing who are looking to.
Well, a colleague of mine, a copywriting colleague of mine up in Toronto by the name of Helen Wilkie, has written a book called, let me see what it's called, Make Your Words Count. And it's a guide to helping accountants write.
Okay.
That's a really, and she's such a charming and chatty woman that it's really quite entertaining. So that's one source. Another good source is where I got my training from the American Writers and Artists Inc. And even though it says American, it's really an international company. I have friends in there from all over the world, quite a few from Australia and some from Canada. So it really is international, but they have courses in all kinds of advertising and marketing writing. So that's quite useful.
Okay.
And so, really, the best way to practice writing, to learn to write, is simply to do it.
Mm.
That's
Okay.
probably the best.
So on that practical point, I often get asked, like, how do we create ideas for the content that we write on our accounting website or blog? Where would you suggest, or how would you suggest it is a good method for generating ideas?
Just spread a wide net. Like your friend Drayton Bird says, fill your mind with ideas. So pay attention to the news. When I see an article that sounds interesting, if it's in the paper, then I cut it out and put it in a file that I have. If it's a newsletter that's online, then I send a copy of that article to myself and file it away in a special folder.
Mm-hmm.
But I just pay attention to what's going on, what's up with the IRS, what the latest news is. And then another great source is just listening to what your clients say. What are they concerned about? And oftentimes that gives you the best ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Because the things that they ask over and over, those make great blog posts.
Mm.
Because then you can write it down once and then send it to your clients whenever that question comes up.
Mm-hmm.
So rather than going into a 20-minute explanation of how do you calculate estimated tax payments, you can say, well, here, let me send you an article that you can read.
Mm.
So it really saves the accountant a lot of time. And then the client has something that they can refer to.
Mm-hmm. So keep mentioning them, actually. but it seems quite relevant, is Drayton Bird, and he would definitely not claim this was his original idea, but advertising copywriters have what's called a swipe file, which is well, you'll know what it is, but basically a file. It would have been, a physical file in the past, but obviously it's something you could do electronically now, of things that they've read, things that they liked, which they could then, let's say, borrow, steal, be influenced by. Do you do anything like that? Have that kind of a swipe file to
Oh
use?
yeah. Oh yes, I do. Yeah,
Yeah.
I do. Yeah, I have lots of newsletters that I've saved, articles I've saved. I also use Pocket. It's an app,
Yeah.
and I just save things there that I think would be useful. And sometimes I send them off to prospects or to clients
Hmm.
to give them a little bit of information. It's part of the nurturing process to let them know that I'm still thinking about them. And accountants can do that. And, it doesn't have to be something that you've written to send it off to them. It can be something that you found in Accounting Today or in one of your online newsletters, something that's very useful. You can pull that out and send that on to them.
Mm. Yeah. So I guess you've got your content creation, which we have been talked about, and then your content curation, which you're talking about there. So just being a source of useful information to your clients and prospects.
Oh, yes.
Um, so to finish off, which do you think are the best accounting blogs or bloggers? Really good kind of information for actual accountants.
Well, one of my favorite newsletters is Accounting Today,
Hmm.
and that's a good newsletter. It's a little less stuffy and a little less dry than the ones that come from the software companies. And there's a broader variety of articles in it
Hmm.
that speak to the challenges of running a firm and not just the tax law, not just the tax court cases that are coming out, but it takes a very broad view. And then there are also a few others that I find pretty interesting. Wallet Hub is a great source of just data about the country. I have used that when I've written valuation reports, when I need to find something out about the economy of a particular area or how a city ranks in the among the rest of the country. So they have a lot of very useful stuff.
Okay.
So there are more accounting blogs than you can throw a spreadsheet at. I'm afraid.
Yeah. Well, even if we haven't got time to discuss them all, we can maybe include some links with the video as well. Um, but yeah, I'd just like to thank you for your time. That's really fascinating, and we'll include details to Farr Communications, so people can get in touch if they're looking for somebody with your fairly unique blend of skills.
Well, thank you, and it's been great fun talking to you, Matt.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Liz.
You're welcome.